Okay. Good evening, all. Welcome to the Studio City Neighborhood Council Budget Committee meeting. It is 7:33 p.m. and we'll begin by calling roll. Richard Niederberg.
Here.
Brandon Pender. I don't think Brandon is here yet. Adam Summer.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Who else do we have tonight? We've got, well, Barry Weiss is now officially as part of it. Barry Weiss.
Here.
Okay. Scott Mandel.
Present.
Great. And I didn't have a list ahead of time, so do I have everybody? I think so. Okay. And Scott, feel free to jump.
Brandon Pender.
I did mention Brandon Pender. I don't see him here yet. He's got prior commitments, so it was real slim that he was going to make it this evening. There you are, Barry Weiss. Hi.
Hello. You finally
Nice.
see me
Nice to officially see you and meet you.
in person, or somewhat
Yes.
in person.
Okay, so we have committee chair comments. That would be me, and I'll just combine it with treasurer comments of the next one if I can do that, Scott, since one and the same.
Sure.
So for anybody who missed it, Barry Weiss was on the budget committee prior, and I did not have the pleasure to work with him. He went out just as I was coming in, but he's back to join us. So welcome, Barry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And everybody, please bear with me. This is the first time that I am doing this evening, chairing this. So I'm probably going to fumble all the way through it, but hopefully not.
That'd be great.
All right. So nothing else. We'll be getting into what we're here for in a few minutes. So we'll go on to agenda item number 4. Public comment on non-agenda items within the committee's jurisdiction. 1 minute per speaker, extendable by chair. Do we have people who'd like to speak? Barry Johnson, go ahead and unmute yourself. You have 1 minute. Are we timing this, Scott? Do you have a timer?
I can be your timer.
Yes, I will time it. Yes.
Barry.
Okay
Barry?
to go?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say in general, I really hope we can save on our money because we have done so for nearly 20 years, and paying for, the fact is we do not have to pay for office space. We do not have to pay for any meeting rooms, and any place else we would go, we most likely would. It's a wonderful thing. And it means the money that we spend can be done on community projects more so than paying rent to somebody. And I just think it's wonderful. And going elsewhere, we would surely be paying a lot of money. And also, we have never paid money for running our meetings either. So I know that's coming up one on the agenda, but I just mean in general, I would hate to see us start spending money on things that we have not spent money on for 20 years and use that money otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Go ahead, Go Puppet. You have 1 minute.
Yes, this is Bully Bull substituting for my Uncle Goat Puppet. Yes, he has prior commitments.
Yeah, where the hell is he?
I think he's with those FBI people, something about another council member. So anyway, yes, as you can see, I am the true original puppet awarded with an Empower LA badge. Yes, they handed it to me to commemorate my great invocation of the First Amendment. But as you saw, and as the new members should know, we have 2 Brandons, the mentally competent Brandon and the emotional Brandon. And the emotional Brandon must have had a meltdown as he gave up power. And Scott watched him do it. And Scott Scott did not intervene like a good friend. You have to intervene, Scott, when your friends, for example, guzzle an entire quart of vodka and get behind the wheel of their Ferrari. You have to step in sometimes. What? Why the fuck is the time? He's turning against us.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Puppet. Colin, user one, go ahead.
Well, Madam Chair, you're running this meeting crappy. You really are. If you go over Van Nuys Neighborhood Council, they're not transparent. Your agenda is transparent, so that makes you crappy. You don't you don't, Kim, you don't act like an asshole like they do over in Van Nuys. So that's another strike 2 against you. Strike 3, you know how to put an agenda in the English grammar way. Over there, they like the spellings, fuck ups, and everything. And if you say anything about it, they want their safe space. It appears you didn't go to Dunn to get to hold your breath to do this agenda like they do over at Van Nuys. You got to be the best fuck up, okay? If you keep this up, I have to file a complaint because you're not being a terrible person. You got to do that. I'm tired of this neighborhood council trying to follow the rules, trying to do everything right, and not listening to the fucking parasites at Dunn. And you should just go over to Van Nuys to see how you could fuck up a junkyard. That would be the best way to do it. And also give money to nonprofits where their determination letter has been revoked. And according to the Dunn rep, well, that's what the board wants. They can go fuck themselves at Van Nuys. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Austin, go ahead.
Thank you. My comment was, I don't see it on the agenda tonight, but I was hoping that maybe if we might consider sending out a mailer that had a list of community interest points on it. I know we're sending out, or we may be sending out, a election postcard, and I was hoping that part of that could be utilized with maybe 2 or 3 QR codes to cover other items that are of high interest within our neighborhood, such as our homeless issue and crime and land use. So my comment was that if there is going to be a flyer or anything that's paid for that's collateral that will be handed out or posted or mailed, that it be utilized for more than one thing. And I thought using, especially if there's an election flyer, banner, postcard, or handouts, that might inspire people to want to become part of the neighborhood council, because these are things that they want to be heard on. So that was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, I don't see any other hands. So I will call that end the public comment. Go on to agenda item number 5, discussion and possible motion regarding the SCNC budget. We have the current budget here. The time allotted is 15 minutes, extendable by chair. The current budget is what was posted, and want to discuss what we have in the budget, what has been budgeted, the spreadsheet. We have a spreadsheet with remaining allocation, which is probably the clearest way to see what we have left and what we could possibly do. Obviously, we have a funding request ahead of us in this agenda, so it would be good to go over those numbers, but also I'd like to discuss the budget and see if we want to put in any sort of a revised budget at this time, put it ahead for the for board approval at the February meeting. So let's go ahead and start. I think the best way to start would be with the spreadsheet. Can you share that, Scott?
Sure.
That would be great.
Stand by.
So that we know
Actual-
exactly
The actual budget, not the Excel sheet, or you want the Excel sheet?
that Excel spreadsheet. Yeah,
Let's try that.
it's the quick and dirty. I think the clearer, more concise way. Great, thank you. So On the left, we have the remaining budget allocation. We have a cash balance of 29,000 showing on the dashboard, the portal dashboard, which I have to give Scott credit for putting together the agenda. We worked on it together, but it was a big, a lot of work there for Scott. I thank you for putting that together so well and for linking to the dashboard as well. But so 29,000 is showing, and I know that can be confusing. It seems like we have a lot of cash, but so I put it, I have listed here what is what we have earmarked already, what has been allocated, and what we believe we may need for the rest of the fiscal year, which ends in June. So we have 5,000, which was already approved for the Studio City Beautification Association Community Improvement Project. So we're just waiting for them to complete that before payment goes out. We have 2 approved movie nights. We had 1 in September. This is 2 additional that have been approved. So what is currently in the budget was only for 2. So we are going to have to a lot more for that. We have 8,000 for the election, which was based on, and it went back and forth. I had found a figure of 4,000 on a prior budget cut from a few years ago. However, my understanding is the latest, most recent one we had, Brandon Marino and Scott Mandel apparently were in the office and found the election committee book and receipts and whatnot, and they spent something like 10 to 11 grand. Most of which my understanding is went for mailers. So we're going to discuss that budget a little bit. But so I fell in the middle with 8,000, and we just don't know at the moment without the election ad hoc committee and some decisions being made on what we're doing for the election. So we also have then 4 months if we're going to the in-person meetings in March. So we have meeting refreshments 4 months worth. That would be March, April, May, and June is what we're talking. I took a stab at 800, and Richard can better advise on that in a moment when I finish going through this. We have 1,000 is a thought for, and this is what we're going to talk about later in the meeting as well. 4 months of meeting minutes taker at the meetings. We would need someone to actually take the minutes of the meeting, since we no longer will be having Zoom, and have the recordings and the minutes that are spit out by Zoom. So that will cost us. That is the total there for 4 months worth. It's also a possibility, we're going to talk about this further, about a tech person to record the meetings when we are in person, to have that record. I have 1,000 there. We're really not sure. Scott thought maybe even more. So could be double that. Still looking into that issue. We have 5 months of web and G Suite hosting, which we know those costs. There are some supplies that we know we're going to need going back into the office. Scott had mentioned some printer supplies, which are costly. So I put 1,000 there, and then there's a 3,000 cushion just for, if something has been missed, something's forgotten. Sometimes we find out invoices from past years weren't paid, whatever. Nice to have a cushion. I don't want to run us completely dry here. So 2,900 is the remaining, which up to 10,000 can be carried over to the next budget. So it does not just go to waste. It will be used, meaning it won't just go back into the coffers of the LA City Council, the LA City budget. We would be able to move that forward. So we're running tight this year as compared to last year. The right-hand side is a possible that I played with the numbers, and the quick of that is just that the election budget I cut in half to 4,000. You see that there in bold. But that would be a real stretch if we're doing any kind of mailings. I took out the tech assistants just just to throw around because that's kind of up in the air. And took out the cushion just to see the comparison of what we, might possibly have. I think somewhere in the middle there, probably around 5,000 is a better guess as to what we could end up with at the end of the year if we do nothing else at this time. So that's where we're sitting. I'd like to. I think, Scott, what do you think? We should discuss this now before even looking at the actual budget. I think it's a lot for people to absorb. Maybe we can talk about this a little bit. I'd like to find out from Richard first if the 800 seems like a fair amount. Richard, that's 200 a meeting, or what was prior spending like? Now it's been a few years and costs have gone up on the refreshments.
Okay, it's about 200 per meeting, depending on what deal we can get locked in with Roco's or some other place, basically, that gives us a fixed price guaranteed. We've had 165, we've had 175 before at fixed guaranteed prices. I hope we'll be able to have one locked in so you know how to budget a little better. The other thing on here is that,
as long as we have, hold on a second, Richard, excuse me, as long as we have this up on the screen, we should probably go to public comment first, and then we can give that, they can have a chance to talk about what they're seeing, and then we can go back and dig in.
I want to add one thing first, and that is we got the printer supplies. It was $800 to the printers. So I'm just trying to give you an idea where it was before.
Okay, yeah, we have, things are some different numbers on the actual budget that we approved, and that will bring it up momentarily. I think I might have had the meeting refreshments might have been at a $1,200 cost. It's $1,000. This is the fastest way to really see, the fastest, clearest way. And we can look at that budget though and mess around with some numbers if we want to try to even, I almost think it's a little early to bring a revised budget forward to the board in February. However, if we're starting meetings in March, we may want to have that all lined up. But that can be played with by the time payments need to be made and whatnot. It's as long as we have the money there, we can make this happen. So right now it's really just to talk about what we have here and the plausibility of what's here. So okay, so Scott, if you feel we do have to go to public comment, I'll go ahead and open that up. And I see Chip Meehan's hand up. Go ahead, Chip, and unmute yourself.
Okie doke. Hello, everybody. Yeah, thanks very much for doing this. And the spreadsheet is, I think, the easiest way to look at it. Is it possible for us to actually solicit, if we put out a broad call, did not talk to a restaurant and had food donated on a rotating basis? Sort of a rotating taste of Studio City, where restaurants would donate a couple pies, whatever it is we need, or can we not do that?
There are issues with the donations. I do know from dealing with Luminaria that we couldn't, I think we weren't, Trader Joe's, usually we get cookies from Trader Joe's, and I think that we could partner with them. They could be a sponsor rather, but there were some issues with the donations. So I can certainly look into that further, but I think that was taking essentially being gifted and therefore not allowed.
Okay. As far as the election, I know one of the largest proposed expenses was banners. And I'm not really a fan of the banner based on the cost of those. Would there be a way for us to have the outreach committee put together a program where we did sort of in-person efforts? So farmers market, have board members attend. We have a bunch of weeks. We don't have to do it every week, but that's free, I believe. And then we could also rely on the mailing list for, and I just scribbled these out, but SCRA, Save Weddington, the Bid and the Chamber all have their own mailing lists. Perhaps we could ask them to promote the election for the board as well. And I think that would give us some focused communication as opposed to people driving by and what's that banner? Oh, I thought it was something from the museum. I'm not convinced that the banners are effective.
Appreciated, and probably this is a good discussion to have with outreach and the ad hoc committee as to exactly what would be purchased or what the money would be needed for, but good suggestions, and I'm writing stuff down. And I don't think we're actually timing this at the moment, so we'll keep it short. Was that, you had
That's
anything
it.
else, Chip?
I like your 4,000 for the election versus the 8,000. I think
I timed it, but we do need to go on to another speaker.
Okay. Barry Johnson, go ahead.
Yeah, and the SCRA has always done e-blasts for the election. But what I do want to say on this item, and Scott is really going to like this, we don't need a minutes taker, and I'll tell you how we don't. All we have to do is have one person in our meeting room call in on a phone to Zoom and put that phone next to the speaker at the front of the room, and that speaker has all the board members and public comments are being projected out of that speaker. That would all go into the phone, into a Zoom, and there we have our created minutes, our log, and our transcript that Scott loves. And Scott and I were talking about this earlier in the week, and this just occurred to me since he and I talked about this. But I think this would totally work. It would transcribe it. It would just be its own Zoom meeting, and with one phone, and we'd have all the results that we now have doing a Zoom meeting, because all that audio comes through the two speakers at the front of the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Puppet, go ahead.
Right. Where the hell's my camera? It's the black puppet. I'm speaking for the goat puppet. And I just want to know, how much time you giving these other white people? They're giving them at least 5 minutes each. I thought this shit was time. What's going on? They playing bullshit here. I look at the camp, the goddamn thing, and I can't see shit. And I want to know, even for 1 minute, how come you say you timing fool, and how come I don't know what I get the time? I'm not getting short service here, motherfucker. I ain't doing nothing wrong here. But one thing I want is some goddamn free food again, to go to these meetings and get some decent food. I want the kind of food you get at the Wynn buffet. You get some nice food. You used to give good food. And then all you fools started getting foolish. So we want to get some decent eat. I don't want no donated food. I want fresh motherfucking food in them little tins with the little fires under them, keeping them warm. What they call that shit? Canned heat. Yeah, canned heat. And if you can provide me a couple of extra canned heat when I leave, I can appreciate that. I use them to heat my home because I can't afford my gas bill right now, if you know what I mean. I'm getting ripped off on my fucking gas bill right now. Holy shit. Brad, look what I'll show you right now. What is it here? The 3,000 square foot.
It's time.
Look at this shit. Look at this shit. That's what the fuck we gotta use, Scott. Look at this. 1840.
Okay.
Thank you.
Somebody
Calling user
got for the
one, go ahead.
I appreciate
Oh,
that.
technology. Let's just speak to a speakerphone and have it transcribe. What happens when the software or hardware goes sideways? I don't know. Talk to the city attorney. That's why there's minute takers. Why they still have them. But of course, we'll have people that will do it the simple way. And when someone gets pissed off and doesn't transfer the media over or something like that, that would be a nice thing. Another thing in this budget it does not have is Kleenexes and therapists for Brandon, your board member, Brandon. He might need some therapy or something. You know, you got to put that in there. And as for the donation of food, I could maybe donate homeless people. I could have them come in. I could donate them. That doesn't cost anything, and they get donated food. So if you want to go into a recycling program, you can take their donated food and redonate it to everybody else. I think that'll be a good thing, so you can have more participants. And I think would be a good idea. So what about the Brandon budget? We need to do something regarding the Brandon budget. Therapy, safe space room, maybe a prostitute that's scoliosis or something, or is an amputee. That might help him. I think that needs to be put in the budget. That's called medical aid. So I think that's the most important thing to do. And another thing, Madam Chair, you're not screwing up on the budget here like they do in Van Nuys. Why don't you start screwing things up and be a good girl, be a good 25-year-old, and start screwing up everything as they do in Van Nuys. If not, I'm going to file grievance. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands.
If you knew,
Well, I was going to go back to the committee members, Richard. So now go ahead, Richard.
we are prohibited from accepting any donations from anybody without the approval of city council. We can use our council person to push it through, or you still have to get permission. You cannot just accept stuff. Attorney's office long enough to realize you just can't accept gifts for any reason.
Thank you. Your audio keeps going out a little, Richard.
Sorry, I'm just saying that.
No, but we did hear you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, just a few
enough.
words missed here and there, but we got it.
It's enough.
Thank you. Anybody else have comments? Barry, Scott, I see your hand up.
Thank you. I just wanted to say for the specifics of how we will conduct the election outreach, we'll leave that to the election ad hoc committee if we can form one, and or the outreach committee if we can establish one. As some of you may or may not know, Brandon resigned as outreach chair. So at the moment, we don't have an outreach. So as far as whether we're going to do farmers markets or banners or all that stuff, right now, let's just try to see how much money we have or we're going to allocate so we have enough left over to make it to the end of the year. And then either the board will be handling the outreach, or the newly formed outreach committee, and or the ad hoc for the election. So I think Kim's spreadsheets are great. For me, the issue is, are we going to do a mailer or not? And that's the budget buster. And that pretty much will set the terms for everything else. So I'm going to have probably as an agenda item, unless you talk me out of it, if this committee talks me out of it, to just have a thumbs up, thumbs down. Are we doing a mailer, US mail, for whether it's the election or anything else? Because that's going to put us at, well, probably 10 grand or a little more. The postage is up, and the postage doesn't go to the businesses, so then we hire Walking Man to do the businesses, and it's expensive. So anyway, carry on, Kim. Sorry to ramble so long.
No, very good stuff. Yeah, we don't want to, that is the big question, and not necessarily for us to debate tonight, whether the mailers will get done or not. It is, we kind of have to wait. I mean, I'm comfortable with where the budget is sitting at the moment and the numbers that are there. I'm happy to get input though, in case anybody thinks I'm off, or, you know, we do need that cushion. If it goes from 8 to 10 or 11 for the election, you know, we have it, we can put it there. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, so I'd like to comment on this.
Sure.
I think the important thing is to get information from whoever's going to be doing outreach for the election as to what they plan to do and how much it's going to cost. The budget committee really isn't to decide necessarily what they can do and how they can do it, but rather we're to look at the budget and see how much we budgeted, and if the budget needs adjustment based on what the committee or whoever's doing outreach for the election has proposed. I don't think it's the budget committee's duty or mission to determine at this point what the election outreach should be. Actually, we're supposed to look at it after it's been proposed, and then we're supposed to review it to see where it's at. That said, the election's important. However, at the same time, we have to look for our return on investment. In the past, we haven't had a very good turnout for our elections. What, 400, 500 people at the most? Spending thousands and thousands of dollars to reach those people, when really it's our core people that we mail to or email to are the ones that are going to vote. So that's something whoever is doing the outreach. But I think, Kim, what you did here was looking at a possible change or differences in the budget should the board go that way. And I really appreciate that, because you've kind of looked at alternatives already. Again, I think whoever's organizing the meetings on, you know, for the general public, they should be the ones telling us how much they think we need for food. Again, the budget committee isn't supposed to do an analysis or find that stuff out, but rather we're supposed to look at what they proposed. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, just as we look forward to any budget issues or concerns. At the same time, Kim, you've kind of you've kind of looked forward and said, these are things I could see possibly affecting our budget, which is fantastic, because this then gives us an idea of where we may be headed regarding the budget.
Yeah, that was the point, since we have a few things ahead of us on this agenda and a funding request as well, was to really get a look, see where we are, because things are tighter this year than last year for sure. Where I didn't have to keep such fine tracking here. But okay, let's take a quick look at the budget then as it is currently, just to know kind of where the monies are sitting in the categories. Scott, if you would be so kind as to share that budget.
Yeah, let me find it. I have a lot of windows open.
No, I'm sorry. I can probably pull it up, although I would have to share my screen, which you'd probably get it done faster.
1 second. How's that?
There we go. Perfect. Okay, great. So just quickly, if you can kind of show the whole office operational section there with the total, thank you. Right there is perfect. Some things, I'm just debating if I want to go through. Well, it's fine. We'll go this way. There's a few things that definitely can be pulled out. I don't even think this fiscal year that we're being charged for the Zoom licenses. I hate though getting into this total nitty gritty of this tiny little amounts where we're really scraping. So there are ways though that this can be revised, obviously, to better fit with the spreadsheet that was there. As you saw, we have the monies for a minute taker if we want, or the video if it's necessary, if either of those are necessary. And some currently for election budget, but it's how much else is, you know, what else is remaining. I wish we had more answers at the moment, because I know we have a request here for 5,000 for funding. So let's just take a look at the next screen of the budget, the next page, thank you, rather. So there are several places here too. So we've got the election budget in here. There are certain things we're not going to get to in this fiscal year. I don't see the logo apparel happening. The miscellaneous, there's 1,500 right there in those two items, logo apparel and miscellaneous, that can be transferred and moved into a different category or cover other things. We also have the other events, the movies in the park there, that was 4,500 was budgeted originally. We actually spent, I have the numbers, and I don't think I have that in front of me. I think we had spent about 1,800 on the first movie. So the two additional movies at 2,500 each, I think will be less. So I actually think, even though we have to earmark the 2,500 for each that we approve, so a total of 5,000 there, I think it'll be a little less. And the Luminaria also was originally budgeted at 5,500, and that came in at, I think that was around 26 or 2,800 was the final tally. We were very fortunate to not have to spend the 1,500 to rent the venue. My understanding is that CD2, Councilman Krikorian's office, came in and worked with us, sponsored, I think, or got the Campo. Maybe somebody else has better information on that, but we ended up not having to absorb that cost, so that was very helpful. So that leaves us with a little extra as far as how this was originally done. But as you see, so then the 8,000 for the election, and that was just a stab as to dividing it up. And then finally, the last page there, Scott, if you would. We have in there 3,000 for a neighborhood purpose grant, the 10,000 in the community improvement projects. That's already been one was 5,000 was already approved for the SCBA. The other 5,000 that's in there had been for a project from actually the last fiscal year, which ended up getting paid in this one. So that's already taken as well. So since we've discussed this, do I need to open this up for public comment, Scott, before the committee gets into discussing it?
As the city attorney says, out of an abundance of caution, yes.
Okay, all righty. So I will open this up for public comment. Let's go ahead, call in user number 1. I think you've got your hand up. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Richard Nierenberg, did you want a copy of the ordinance and the council file number regarding accepting donations? I'll be glad to send that over to you and to the president if you want that, and you can distribute it to everybody. What?
He'll send me a copy.
Okay, Madam Chair, can you repeat what he said?
He said, yes, you can send him a copy.
Yeah, just
Okay, just make sure to tell him not to follow a workplace violence restraining order when I forward it to him, because I'm Bill Puppet's son.
Just send it to
Okay, I'll be sending it over in about 3 minutes. That's pretty much it. And Madam Chair, you got to start fucking up, okay? You got to be like Van Nuys. Always be a loser. So go over to Van Nuys, see what they do, and then transfer it over to Studio City to stink. You'll like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Austin, go ahead.
I was just, I had my hand up from when Chip had suggested that, I'm sorry, that Barry had suggested about recording the meetings on Zoom, because I think that's a nice savings and it's infallible, it's verbatim. And a person could not show up at a meeting who was paid to take meeting minutes. And so a person could be as fallible as any technology, but I think that's an easy save. So I just wanted to back Barry's suggestion on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we have any other public do we have anybody else? Public comment questions? I think I've hit everybody. Okay, I'm gonna close that
What
public
happened,
comment.
Pam? Yeah, what happened?
Did I not get, did I miss Goat?
Holy shit.
Miss Goat.
My apologies, Goat, go ahead.
No. Just because I'm black. Once somebody identifies as black, then I get fucking scooped over here in this fucking place. It's bullshit. Especially in Black History Month. But I like the fact that you're trying to go to that Paul Crook-Corian over there. I still want to know, and all, even Goat Puppet know more about this shit than I do, is how come he can't pay his bar license dues and take his classes and got his bar license, a double suspended license? It's still up there on the website, ain't it, Scott? He check every day. How come that motherfucker's allowed to get away with that? And he was the budget chair for 5 or 7 years. That ain't no goddamn thing. And you taking money from that pimp? Are you crazy? I don't take no goddamn money from no goat herder pimp. I'm a pimp. Yes, that's true. But that's what I heard. Yeah, but I got to work that way. I got to control my economy. But your economy looks like you want handout.
That's time.
What, you put that shit up there? I can't see that shit.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that shit. Could you see that shit?
Thank you.
What kind of shit he pulling? What? I'm gonna bring Brendan back.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on from there.
Watch that
Does the
dandruff.
committee have any comments regarding the current budget? I don't think necessarily that we need to do any revisions tonight. Perhaps, you know, if there is anything solidified with the election budget or what, maybe I can bring a revised. We've talked about all these things. If everybody here is comfortable, obviously it would have to go before the board for an approval if there's a revised budget. But if everybody's comfortable with the numbers from the spreadsheet, basically I just transfer them on to the new budget. Any more thoughts, suggestions there?
Yeah, just as a reminder, the budget isn't set in concrete, so we can change it at any time or play around with it within the parameters of what we've already allocated. So it's something that is kind of a living kind of a document in the sense that, yes, we can adapt it as the board sees fit. So adopting it now will give us a framework and then to work from, and then we can adjust it according to how the board sees fit to do that.
So you want to work on that, or you're fine with our current budget as it is? I mean, just to leave it there and revise when needed.
I would leave it there because
Okay,
it's kind of
great.
the format of what we want anyway to understand. And then as we see any kind of refinements needing to be made, we can take those into, consideration.
Okay, great. And I just want to point out that Brandon Pender did make it. Thank you, Brandon, for joining tonight. Any other comments on this? I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead. We're sort of, I don't want to be so formal. Jump on in.
It's fine. I don't want to interrupt anybody. So I'll just raise my hand and wait my turn. So if you guys want to talk me out of this based on the spreadsheets Kim has presented and what we just discussed, I'm going to put on the board meeting for this month. In addition to the thumbs up or down for the mailer, I'm going to have a thumbs up or down for the minute taker. I realize there may be a technological solution, but that's going to be a test that I'll run during our first meeting if we even have the sound system working properly and everything else. So, and if the board says no, that's fine. But if they say yes, then we'll have a minute taker, a paid minute taker. I'm gonna do the same thing, or I think we should do the same thing with the food, the refreshments we're gonna serve at the meeting. If somebody wants to get the cost from Rocco's, Richard, I know you like that place. We can do a thumbs up or down for that. Also for, what was the other item? A video recorder. So I don't have any approved vendors yet from Dunn as far as someone to come and video record our meeting. That also might take care of future costs for minute taker as well, if the video recording is quality enough. So it would be up to a certain amount of dollars for someone to video record the at least the board meetings. That would be the same thing for, by the way, I didn't clarify for the minute takers. We are not required to take minutes for the committee meetings. We are required to do it for the board. So at least for March, I will try to convince the board, and then you guys or we all can revise the budget accordingly based on what they give the thumbs up or thumbs down to, which if we don't do minutes, Dunn can impose it upon us, hire a minute taker and take the money out of our budget. I don't think it'll get to that. And our Zoom license is up at the end of May, $200 each license, but we don't have to discuss that now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I wasn't getting too deep. Obviously, it is part of our budget and discussions here. I wasn't getting too deep into the later agenda items. I mean, if we need to go in, I guess, I mean, if we've already discussed it at this point, we probably can skip them really, but I wasn't getting into my thoughts on the minute taker, which I'm not sure if just having a mic for in transmitting, I think a minute taker in person will see the people and have our names and know our names and be able to attribute the comments to certain people, whether it's public or the board members. I think if you're doing that over the phone, they're not going to necessarily know, unless it is being video recorded and we're on Zoom, and so therefore they see, although it would be we wouldn't have individual names up still. So that is the only issue that I see with doing it that way, as well as what I think call-in user one brought it in, which was, if there are technical difficulties, but you also run the risk if someone just doesn't show up. If you have an in-person person taking the minutes, they may not show up. So we definitely need to think about this. And anybody on the committee have any further thought? I mean, this would be new territory for all of us, so that we kind of don't really know unless we've tried it out. Although Scott, you see a lot of other, you watch a lot of meetings. Do you know how others are doing it?
Kim, and actually the rest of the committee, we've seen a lot of, put it this way, historically, when I've done research on what the SCNC has done and the board has voted, when it's been on video, you can't index that. And there's no way to look back and see, except you're going to watch all the video of all the meetings to find out how the board acted on things. When you have a minute taker, there's the ability to index what's being said so that it can be actually researched and found really easily. Say if there's a budget item or another item that comes before the board that the board voted on, indexing the information is an easy way to do that. It sounds like right now, yeah, okay, board meetings, just record them, it's fine, people can look and whatever. But there's a real important place for the minutes. And that is when organizations are looking to research the neighborhood council board meetings for different reasons, because they want to see what's been done in the past. Say if they're a community organization and want to look into funding. When you have video, it doesn't index unless there's some way to do that with a vendor. Whereas if you have somebody that's taking minutes, that if it's actually transcribed, then you can actually index that. And that's what used to happen. It just hasn't happened since, I don't know, whoever got the idea in their head that they needed to do video.
Okay, I see Brandon's hand up as well. Brandon, go ahead.
I'm only making a comment because I'm still with my other committee meeting with the budget advocates, but I thought I'd let you guys know that this Saturday of the 11th, we've got a town hall meeting about Dunn, and it's from 12 to 2:30. And if you guys want to attend that, excuse me, if you guys want to attend that, you can go to budgetadvocates.org. That's Budget Advocates with an S.org, and you can log on there. And I think there's a registration for that as well. So you might want to go to our website as soon as possible to see if there's any type of registration for that. But it is this coming Saturday, and we hope to have you guys participate. And then I will see you guys hopefully if my health is better, because I'm actually doing this when I have walking pneumonia. But I'm I'll be seeing you guys on the next board meeting, and to give you reports and stuff. But we made arrangements for all the board members, or the executive board at least, to have the e-blast for our meetings. So hopefully you've been getting that. If you haven't, let me know, and I'll send it directly to you. And so anyway, and last but not least, just off the topic comment. When I came on, I thought somebody was talking about me. I'm under the impression now. I guess we have another Brandon who's a board member or committee member.
Brandon, yes, Brandon Marino, a board member.
Okay, yes. So, he's my namesake. He's a member of the board, and he's also a member of this committee. I really don't like it when my name is mentioned. So user number one who called in, yeah, I think you should stop doing that. If you don't, I'm going to take it personal. So, and that's not going to be very good for any of us. So just be civil. Stop the personal attacks is not necessary. And if you really want to do this, wait till we come and have a face-to-face meetings, board meetings, and you can do it so we can see who you are. Because when you talk behind the phone, everybody's a hero, but mostly they're cowards. So just let's stop that, because it's been going on for infinitum, and I'm tired of it, especially when my name is mentioned. And you may not be talking about me, but now you have a reason to. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Brandon, and have speedy recovery there. You do sound awful. Thank you for showing up and letting us know about the Saturday event. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, this is purely informational. It's not something I'm advocating. In the past, 1 year, I remember the studio gave us MPR 9, and it was like a meet the candidates time. And it was okay as a concern. It didn't cost us anything. But I'm just saying is that's one thing. If the candidates want to be thing, that's one way of doing it. Meeting, although I think there's probably going to be problems if we ever did it in a meeting. The third way is 1 year we rented and had the candidates. I'm just saying that's what we've done it before.
Richard, your sound was going out there. We missed the last sentence or two.
Okay, I'll try to do it better this time. Okay, we've also rented the library in the evening. Since we're paying for a guard for $160. I'm not saying you should be spending money that way, but I'm saying historically, we've had sessions in the library and all the different candidates said what they wanted to say. Again, I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying that's how we've done it before.
Okay, thank you.
Whatever.
Well, yeah, Scott, I would definitely, it sounds, you want to bring it to the board to have them approve the dollars for the minute taker in case we want that for March? Is that what you're thinking for February?
I think that's the prudent thing to do.
I agree.
Otherwise,
Okay.
otherwise we can wind up with special meetings. I mean, because we're not getting any information from Dunn about our protocols for COVID or anything else, what we're supposed to put on our agendas as far as in-person meetings. Dunn has a whole, I mean, in their report, in the council file, they went on for pages and pages about what we're required to do, but they didn't give us the legalese and they're working on it. So I have a feeling, and I'm not hoping it happens, but there may be a little bit of confusion at our first few in-person meetings. And it would just be better to have the board approve the funds in advance. As far as the details of candidate forums and stuff, let's just see how our election committees decide to do that outreach and ad hoc.
Should we, at least, because I think in order to bring it to the board, we should make a motion to, to support and bring it forth to the board, and we would need to vote as a committee, correct? I believe for items number 7 and 8, in order to give the, to approve dollars to go towards those things or put it forth to the board. I think we would need to write the motion here. So should we just settle that we all understand what dollars we have left and where they may go and what our financial picture is, and we can move on to the presentation of Northeast Trees, and then we've discussed plenty. It should be short to do 7 and 8 and make some sort of motion to send to the board.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, all right.
Point of order, I was never called on for this item.
Oh,
I didn't see your hand before when public comment was open.
Well, I had to recall in.
Do you want to bring it up at the next public? Do you want to bring it up at item number 7, Barry, or do you want us to open up?
All I was going to say is that from 2002 until February of 2020, 3 years ago this month, for those 18 years, we've had 4 or 5 different recording secretaries, and it was never an issue. But it seems like we're trying to make it rocket science now, something that doesn't need to be. And yes, we do need another recording secretary like we had the last 5 years through about 2019 in the form of Rita Villa, but she wasn't the only one. We had others, and that's what we need to look for come June and July of this year. But I just don't see spending all this money for something that for 18 years we didn't spend money on. So we need to start rethinking. And I think a lot of you don't have any background history because you weren't here for those 18 years, but it's just not something we should be spending money on. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. I do appreciate your input. You have a lot of insight to the historical happenings. Since it was open to public, Scott, do we need to go back to public comment? In an abundance of caution?
Go ahead, then let's do the presentation, and then
Yeah.
we'll focus on a motion for the 7 and 8.
Okay, go ahead, Goat Puppet.
There you go again. Women always blaming the white man every time. Goddamn chair knows better. You bring up a public comment, everybody got goddamn equal speaking. Under the state law. Yeah. And that's right. And that poor man Johnson sitting there waiting all that time, being ignored and passed over. But remember, everybody, we have 2 Brandons, the good Brandon and the other Brandon. And we never confuse the good Brandon from the other Brandon. That's why we know they 2 Brandons, like they 2 Herbs, like they 2 Johns, like they 2 pimps on the block named my same name. Everybody knows I take the north side of the street with my bitches, and the other John takes the south side of the street with his bitches. So we ain't confusing pimps here. No sirree, duh. And as far as that in-person meeting shit, sounds a little dangerous, Scott. I think you should provide an online alternative for the person who was accosted there. I think that person might now
And
feel
that's time.
uncomfortable. What happened now, Scott? He might feel uncomfortable.
Thank you.
Allow that calling user to have a remote so he can feel safe.
Thank you.
And
And
always PD protection.
click
And
call
the
in
cops,
user
too.
one also. What's the comment again?
Yes.
Go ahead, call in user one. Or not? Did we just lose him? No? Still see him there.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay, was that Brandon on your, Brandon P that was commenting that he's not the Brandon Moreno?
He was confused as to who you were referring to, yes.
Okay, but he wasn't Brandon Moreno, correct?
No.
No.
Okay, he can be unconfused. He's not a problem. Okay, first of all, Richard Nuremberg, did you get my email?
I haven't checked yet. I've been watching the screen here. I did
Okay,
want
you
to
go-
say one thing though, is that I really completely concur with what Barry said, Barry Johnson, because what are you saying is absolutely the truth. All those years, we didn't have to hire anybody. It just worked just fine. And we got clear notes, primarily from, Rita, but from other people too, basically. We don't have to hire somebody to do something as simple as taking notes. They want to put a little record sitting on this on the chair next to them, fine with me. We just have to spend the money.
So I just consulted with a friend of mine who's on the neighborhood council board in another area. They hire the same person they've hired for years from Apple One Services. It's a temp service. They've had great success with it. They haven't had problems with it.
Can we just, I apologize for interrupting. Can we save the discussion for till we get to item 7 then?
Oh,
And try to
fine.
wrap this one up, that we can open it back up for,
Can I finish my public comment? I don't mind them interrupting me.
yes, no, it's true. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Now I forgot where we were talking about. What were we talking about again? Oh, about the note taker?
No, we're trying to close up the budget discussions.
Oh, the budget.
Just-
Okay. I'm going to file a grievance against you, Kim. You're not acting like a stupid person like they do at Van Nuys. You got to be sneaky. You got to bullshit your way. You got to come unprepared. That's another thing. You got to come unprepared. And everything, when shit's going wrong, you got to say that I'm a Republican racist. Goat puppet is a immigrant goat. And you just have to be on the attack and be sympathetic and so forth. You can't be like Richard Nuremberg, where points of authority is mandated. That's how I am. That's how I practice. That's how he practices, and that has to be. So when you get people that just want to say stuff, have them give you some citation or something. It really helps, and you get more prepared. But if you're like Van Nuys, they don't fucking know how to read. There's people
Thank you.
over there. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, we will wrap up the discussion on the budget. Thank you all. I'm going to move to item number 6. Hopefully we do. We have, I see Joe Laskin. Not sure if others are here, but let me read. We're doing a presentation, discussion, possible motion, Northeast Trees Neighborhood Purpose Grant regarding enhanced maintenance of the Zev Yaroslavsky Greenway. 10 minutes extendable by chair. Go ahead. There he is, Joe. Hi, I was just looking for the name, but you put your screen on. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Welcome, and go ahead and introduce yourself, and we can do a share screen if you have. Hopefully you have some things you might like to show us.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm definitely looking forward to presenting. I don't actually have a ton of graphics, but I can pull up some pictures. I was actually just going to spend a few minutes talking about who I am, who Northeast Trees is, what our history is with this section of LA River Trail, and what we're doing currently and what we'd like to do with the community support. And of course, happy to answer questions. Other than existing conditions, there's not a lot of graphics to show, Kim. But anyway, if there's questions or requests to see stuff, I've got a couple screens here. So if I look over this way, it just means I'm looking at my other screen to pull
Great.
something
Well,
up.
yeah, please just give us a great overview, as you just said, and that would be terrific. And then, yeah, we'll follow with questions. And
Awesome.
thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for having me, Madam Chair and council members. We appreciate the opportunity to present. So just a little bit about Northeast Trees. We're a 34-year-old nonprofit. We've planted hundreds of thousands of trees in the city of Los Angeles and employed, trained, and educated hundreds of youth. What we do is we're a park design build nonprofit, which is very unique in Los Angeles. We're actually the LA's oldest design build, and I don't know of any others. And that means we have landscape architects, arborists on staff. I'm the director of development, so I have the honor of doing all of our fundraising, writing all of our grants. That includes government, corporate, foundation, individual, the whole gambit. So like I said, we're a design build nonprofit. We design and build parks, plant trees in the city of LA, including street trees, residential trees, open space trees. We do a ton of work on public school campuses and also in public housing authority sites. We work on all the public housing authority sites in the city. So that's a little bit about what we do. We have an incredible catalog of grants right now and projects in the city. So we're happy to be doing what we're doing. I'm actually also a lifelong Studio City resident. I grew up in Studio City. I currently live in Studio City with my wife. We're renting. And so this community means a whole lot to me. It's what I call home. And actually on the LA River is where I grew up, throwing rocks into the river and messing around as a young kid. So this community, and especially this section of River Trail, means a lot to me. And also, in addition to that, before my time at Northeast Trees, I was at Community Conservation Solutions. That name may ring a bell for some of you. So I was very much involved in the initial fundraising, building, design, and implementation of the Zev Yaroslavsky Greenway Trail. So I helped raise a few $1 million in the state, and also about $700,000 from Studio City residents to take that project to completion. So again, my stake in the community and in this piece of River Trail goes way back. And I've been responsible for bringing millions of dollars to this trail. So really proud of that and really excited for what's to come. So right now, actually due to my connection, and I should mention that Northeast Trees was part of that project. So when you go out there today and you see the tall sycamore trees and the oak trees that are growing, those were all planted by Northeast Trees. So just want to mention that we have we are community based in Northeast LA, hence the name, but we do work throughout the city. Actually, we're working in Watts and South Central, as well as Northeast and East LA and the San Fernando Valley right now. So due to my connections in history, I was actually approached by the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy for possible funding, because there was a pot of funding that had been available after the grant. I'm not sure what had happened to it, but it somehow got resurrected this year. We were approached, went on a site visit, and worked on about a $570-something thousand grant that I can get into a little bit later. Then the inception of this is actually I met with Steve Hirsch, who I see is here on the call, and Beth Diamond from the Studio City Residents Association. After I'd given them news, I was actually on the Save LA River Open Space board recently, and that's how I made the connection. And we met out there, had a site walk, and Steve, to his credit, as well as Beth, really wanted to make sure that the community, the Studio City community, just like they did when we brought millions of dollars of state funding, which was, by the way, mitigation for the widening of the 405 project and carbon cap and trade money that we brought in before. Following that same model of marrying the public money with private investment, that's what we're trying to do here, and make sure that the community of Studio City has stake, can leverage this larger grant, and has a financial kind of in with this grant. Now the scope of work for this grant, so obviously our request is for about 5,000. I know there's budget constraints, so understand that completely. I work at a nonprofit that works with 87% reimbursement restricted money, so I totally get it. But I'm really happy to say that we have received money from the Studio City Farmers Market, and I've been working with LA City Councilwoman Nithya Raymond's office to also get some matching funding for that. So this, neighborhood council funding would join already existing Studio City groups in this kind of community effort. So the scope for this project, again, the Zev Yaroslavsky Trail is between Whitsett and Coldwater. And the scope for this project, again, going back to the inception, meeting with Steve, meeting with Beth, understanding what the community wanted, was a cleanup. So our grant is going to cover a lot of things. First and foremost, we will be doing workforce development, working with underserved youth who don't typically have access to these kinds of jobs in public conservation. So I just got to mention, that's like the number one thing we're doing before any scope improvement. But actually getting on the trail, we're going to be doing trail work. We're going to be regrading the trail. I was actually walking the trail with my wife yesterday, and there was still pools of water on the trail from the recent rain. So we're going to be regrading that trail, which is not going to be a permanent fix, but we are going to be adding a decomposed granite kind of landing area at the base of the ramp, bringing that up to grade, making sure that's safe. The biggest thing I think also is going to be removing invasive plants. The habitat is incredibly rich along this trail, but there's still a huge invasive seed bank that needs to be worked down. And I got to give credit to tree people because they've been doing a fabulous job. And the Audubon Center at Debs Park before them has been doing a great job of doing that in lieu of the maintenance that we were promised. I'll just leave it at that. And the trail, and we'll also include finishing the rock wall near the 3rd and 4th hole at the Whitsett Golf Course, if you know where that is, right before Bel Air, basically at the midpoint of the trail. There's a wall that was not able to, we did not have the funding to finish it in the initial phase. We actually have a couple really stellar people on our crew who have worked in the National Park Service with mortared stone and actually trail building. So we've got a pretty amazing skill set right now on our crew that are going to be working on that. So again, this funding collectively from the Studio City community and certainly from the neighborhood council would support and leverage this larger effort, which, by the way, doesn't just stop at us, because the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority and Tree People have also received separate grants totaling over $1 million that collectively we are bringing. These are taxpayer dollars related to all the multiple benefits that parks and trees provide to this community. So leveraging a pretty amazing effort. And yeah, it's going to really make sure that the community has stake and is able to, to be a part of this second phase of the Zev Yaroslavsky Greenway Trail. And I just want to thank you all for considering this request. Again, I know there's budget concerns. And I want to also thank you guys all. I do a lot of volunteer work. I serve on a couple of boards. So I appreciate all the council members that are out here volunteering precious time in their evenings to listen to this and to be a part of all these other community decisions. So thank you. Madam Chair, please let me know if there's any questions or follow-up. I'm happy to provide my contact information. Again, I'm the Director of Development at Northeast Trees. And if you want me to drop my contact information in the chat, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. We'll get to that. Do you have any renderings or pictures or maps or drawings or anything for that area to show us what it looks like or what might be done or anything to share?
I don't have renderings, but let me see if I can pull up some existing condition pictures just to show what the trail looks like. So give me a moment, Madam Chair. Let me pull that up.
Thank you.
Oh no. Sorry.
And I think before the committee asks you questions, I think we have to go to public comment, correct, Scott? Yeah.
So I have I'm gonna join, Madam Chair, on my other computer, and then I
Okay.
can share my screen. But if you want to open up to public comment, feel free.
We'll wait for you to go ahead. We'll wait for you to finish before we do that. And you can just call me Kim, but thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kim.
No worries, Joe. We'll just kidding.
Should be ready.
It'd be
I'm
nice
just
to be able
having
to show
some-
the board what you're showing us on Wednesday.
So do I have to give you permission, I think, to share your screen, or let's see. Joe.
You know, let me just try to pull it up over here.
What do I have to do, Scott, to allow him to share his screen?
Oh, that's real simple.
Joe, do you see screen sharing on the bottom? Share
Yeah,
screen?
I'm just pulling up the pictures on my other screen. Sorry, my other computer's having technical difficulties. Yeah, I can do it, Scott. Give me one.
Okay, no problem. I can show a picture while you're.
Here, I got it. I got it.
Yeah, I have a couple pictures of the.
Oh, it said host disabled participant screen share. So you might have to make me the co-host.
Make him a co-host.
Okay, that's what I was asking. I can do that.
And make me one too.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. These are just, so this is a good picture. This is towards the Whitsett end after you come down the main gate, right by the fire station. So this block right here, that's actually, I believe, I don't want to get this wrong. I think it's California Golden Bush. And it's a native plant, but when we got the permits from the Army Corps and the Flood Control District, we were expressly prohibited from doing any planting on the channel wall side, because the roots, if left unattended, the roots from any plant could actually really compromise the structural integrity, if you will, of the channel wall, which is a big no-no for the Flood Control District and the Army Corps. So we'll be removing that, but I'm really happy to say that we're going to be working with tree people to ensure that if we can collect seed from the native plants before we remove them, we're going to give that to tree people, give that to them so they can grow that in their nursery, which is local. And then we're in essence, populating that relic plant, because this plant is a recruit, meaning it wasn't planted. So that's a good seed. That's a good seed bank that we want to actually collect. So we're going to be, I just want to mention that we're going to be working to collect seed on all these, on any plants that are going to be removed from the channel wall. Okay. This is just a picture near the golf course, near the, well, at least what used to be the green for hole number 4. And it's just an area where irrigation is existing and we could do infill planting. So Northeast Trees would provide some, California native plants, drought tolerant, a couple of trees. This would be a great location for maybe 1 to 2 trees and some understory plants. So just an area of opportunity. This is the rock wall that's not finished. So as you can see, it's not the most beautiful thing. Due to how the budget goes, we're going to see, we're going to strategically finish the rock wall in areas that we need to. And then if there are areas where we can cover that wall with vines or other plants, we might have to do that, because rock cladding is incredibly expensive. And we all know labor, supply chain issues. The cost of construction has just gone through the roof. If you want horror stories, I can tell you later. Here's a picture of, again, the uncompleted rock wall. and some of the natives that are coming over into, this is actually a bioswale. So along the rock wall runs a water quality bioswale along about half of the trail, actually more than half of the trail. It's split up into different sections. But with some of the Studio City, Farmers Market, Council District 4, Neighborhood Council, if we're so lucky, funding, we would work to also, this is part of the trail cleanup, is prune back these natives. They're very healthy. That's a super healthy native habitat that you see in the screen above that rock wall, but we need to prune it back so that the debris doesn't fall into the bioswale, and the bioswale can actually act as it should, which is to capture water, clean it, and return it clean back into the LA River. Another picture of the unfinished wall. So this is going to be our target area, and we will locate areas like this that were not done in the original project to do infill planting. Same area. This is past I think it's Bel Air. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, is about the midpoint after the golf course on the residential side. Let's see, there was not much to discuss there. Tree People is going to be doing most of the work on that side of the trail. We'll be working mostly from Bel Air to Whitsett. This is actually a picture of the gate. We might, depending on cost, because we're not sure if it's going to be in the budget, replace this drain. So with this drain, we had some of our technical staff look at it, and it looks like it might not be collecting as much water as it could, and all that excess water is then sheet flowing off of the ramp and then eroding the trail, making it dangerous, muddy, slippery, not attractive. So this is actually an issue where we can get ahead of some of the erosion that's happened on the trail if we can fix the drainage up by the ramp. And this is a really good example of how where the grade is right now. So this is incredibly dangerous. And this plant here is compromising the structural integrity of this ramp that we spent a lot of money on. So this is a preventative measure. We got to bring this up to grade, and we're talking about adding a transition area, like with decomposed granite, maybe a header, so that when you come down the trail initially, there's we're not wearing that heavily used section down so much. Yeah, and this is just another picture showing the erosion. Like I said, I was out here yesterday, and this whole section was underwater. So there's definitely a big need for erosion control on this trail. I think that's it, Kim. I want to be
Very helpful.
careful
No,
of
thank
time
you.
too. So I'll stop sharing, and thank you so much for that.
Great. Well, yeah, please do stick around. We'll go ahead and open up for public comment. Terry Austin, go ahead.
Thank you. I think this is such a worthy project, and as a long time 30 odd year resident of Studio City, I so support this. I volunteered with Tree People, pulling weeds and taking out some of the invasives and giving some water during the drought. And the nicest part about this is that it looks natural. It's not a corporate garden. It really looks like when you're a kid and you just go through the ravine. And for people who don't have the stamina or are not in the health to go hike up the mountains, which is beautiful up in Tree People, this is so accessible. And if you don't have hours and you've got a half hour to take a walk, I just hope that the project will go all the way from Whitsett to Coldwater and not from Bel Air to Coldwater, so that it has a continuity. Because I mean, there's the endangered brittlebrush is there, and I saw so many butterflies and so many small birds and mammals, but I saw bunnies, I saw chameleons and stuff. So it's so worthwhile. I totally support this, and it really should be something that the community's doing. So thank you, Joe, for everything you're doing. What an amazing thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Go ahead, calling user 1.
Thank you very much, sir. I got a couple questions. One thing I always look at are the IRS 990 forms on a nonprofit. Here's your Going to the IRS, when are you guys gonna file your last 2 returns? It hasn't happened. But I did read your 2020. Very interesting how compensation works, how you have other nonprofits being hired by your nonprofit to get paid, and other people that work for your nonprofit work for those nonprofits. I find that very interesting. It's called a merry-go-round nonprofits. Second issue that I found on the Secretary of State's website on 1/11/2023, and this probably tells me why those haven't been filed. Your organization, and I'll be glad to send it to the board members here, organization had to amend it that any assets are not for the benefit of directors, officers, or members, or any private persons. Why would that have to be done? Was it because you were told by the government that it had to be done because something was done? So that's the issue that I'm going to ask and wonder about. But if the board members would like to see my actual and estoppel findings, that's fine. If you don't have the authority to comment, that's fine also. I'm not addressing the merit of the issue. I just don't like when a nonprofit uses all its money to pay people. Thank you.
Go ahead, Chip Meehan.
Hello. Joe, thanks very much for that. I've worked with Joe on this project since we were digging trees, and I dispute Joe's contention that he planted the trees at Northeast. It was actually 30 or 40 8 to 12-year-old kids, all armed with shovels. It was complete bedlam. Luckily, no one was hurt in the process, but it was great. It was a huge community event. There were like 100 or more families or family members that were down there that actually did a lot of the volunteer planting with pros going through it. This is an important section of the river. It was paid for by carbon offsets for the 405. There was not much there 7 years ago. And now you take a look at it, it really has become the poster child. And if we plant it, they will come. Not only have the natives done well, even where they're not egregiously overwatered by the runoff from the golf course, but there is so much habitat that's going on down there. It's kind of the example of what we want to move up and down the river. The Sustainability Committee is meeting with CD4 on the 23rd of February to find out where Nithya and her group are as we potentially start another ad hoc that would be a river task force doing a river greenway from Fulton to Tahunga. This particular piece of the river is really important to point to as a success story. The other thing that's cool about this portion of the river is that they
Wrap up your thought.
Okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chip.
So incredibly rude.
And Goat Puppet.
Yes. And notice that Scott never has a timer on the one involving the IRS form guy. Yes, that's right. So what you do is, people, is you set up a nonprofit, okay? Then you set up another nonprofit, and then you have the nonprofit hire the other nonprofit. Then you get money from the first nonprofit, and you hire the second nonprofit back to complete the mission of the first nonprofit. Pretty soon, everybody's paying each other not to work. And that is the goal of the American dream in 2023, isn't it? And as you know, it's named after Zev Yaroslavsky, the most useless fuck politician in the history of mankind. The only good thing he did was in 1984, he got to meet the Queen and he bowed to her. Did you know that, Scott? Like a good British citizen. It can't be. Yes, traitors. And the filth. And where are the homeless? Did you get rid of all of them? Or did you know on the Zev Yaroslavsky Trail they were digging underneath the Erewhon parking lot, and now they're living underneath it? Did you know that? Goat Puppet knows that. And of course, there's somebody that could come to this meeting and give you more details. And then finally, I actually think we've actually put poor Mr. Summer, I think we've actually put him to sleep. He hasn't said a word. He's probably napping right now. We bored him.
It's time. Thank you.
Isn't it a shame, Scott? They're all getting bored. But
Thank
don't
you,
worry,
Goat.
I'll be here for you.
Thank you.
Where were
Go
you?
ahead if you want to. I see your hand up there, Steve. If you'd like to answer the public comments, please go ahead.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Hi, thank you. I wanted to thank Joe for his presentation and for Northeast Trees, even considering taking this on. It's a great project. What you can see in the picture that I just wanted to emphasize was that all the growth that's coming in on the sides, which is really encroached on the walkway, is a big part of the project, is to clean that back so it's open and safe. And that, you know, when we're there, like this is one of the other beautiful things is that a lot of people are, you know, walking this and riding their bikes. It's a great passageway and a beautiful complement to our community. And we hope we look forward to your support and want to thank the Farmers Market and Council 4's office for supporting this. And I thank you all for taking the time tonight.
Certainly. And how about the committee? Does the committee have questions, comments? I'll open it up.
Yeah, I have a couple. Joe, just for my own information, is this county land? Some of this?
It's, you know, the ownership is interesting. It's been a while since I've looked at the maps. There is, it's county flood control is the major entity. There's points where street services or the city kind of juts in, and Army Corps of course has that, but it's mostly flood control.
Okay. My other questions would be, and I don't know if you've already solicited, say, Harvard Westlake, who abuts this property, Universal Studios, who has an interest in the whole parkway along the river, the county itself, because it is county land. You know, I'm just curious as to if they're partnering with us or if there are people you have on your roster as far as who to contact and who you're thinking about as far as generating. Also CBS, they're right on the river. Sure, they're not abutting this property, but they have a big interest in the river, I would think. I'm just curious as to if those are organizations that you've thought about proposing as well. For funding.
Definitely, Barry. I mean, that's you know, my job here at Northeast Trees, you know, is to bring in funding, of course, and you know, the good part is I was involved very deeply and intimately in the capital campaign that raised, you know, nearly $700,000 from the community. So we, you know, I have the lists, I have the rosters, I have, you know, all that stuff. Actually, I was just out there yesterday and looked and saw that there were 4 very high profile paving tiles that were still empty. I have the engraver's contact. So, you know, there's totally opportunity, Barry, for, you know, we did presentations at Coldwell Banker and I mean, I was up and down Ventura, you know, I knocked on literally every business from Laurel Canyon to Coldwater. So the answer is, in short, yes. Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I'd love if there's leads or contacts that this council or committee has, I would love to you know, to collaborate. So thanks.
Then one other question I have is with our funding, would you be able to start work with that, or would you be putting that off until you have more funding or the funding complete?
Great question. So we actually are under signed agreement with the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, which is super, moved pretty quickly. So we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. The MRCA has to update the agreement, because I was part of actually the 3-party agreement with flood control, CCS, and Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. So that agreement, now that Northeast Trees and Tree People are involved in the maintenance, that agreement has to be updated. It's a bureaucratic thing. It shouldn't take too long. It's probably a no objection letter. But once that's done, we're actually going to start, depends. We're focusing on planting about 700 trees in South Central in the next month. So it might not be until the summer, because the first activities aren't going to be planting, Barry, probably grading, invasive. We may start this summer. So the answer is no, we don't need this money to start. We have funding to start.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to.
I think we need an emotion. Is that right, Kim? No, I'm not getting any sound from you.
I think you're muted, Kim.
Apologies, I just went on and on. I was asking if anybody else in the committee had questions. I think Scott had met with someone from North Trees prior and actually went down to the site. Is that correct, Scott, or do I have that wrong? Perhaps you intended
That was
to.
me. Scott and I were down there.
Oh, he was with you. Okay. I
Yeah.
thought he was with the person prior who had put the NPG in. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I've been down there quite a bit. I was also there for the volunteering of pulling out the invasive plants and such, and I go there regularly.
Oh, very good. Okay. Do you have some input then, Scott, you'd like to give?
I guess my only point or question is that is this a traditional type of community buy-in which helps the rest of the money flow as well? So you can show that there is community support for it, because obviously what we're going to contribute isn't going to rehabilitate the whole ZEV, but it does show that there is community support. Is that fair?
Yeah, I absolutely, Scott. I mean, we work in communities, actually, most exclusively, we work in communities that don't always have the means to contribute, but if you can contribute anything, I think it's really the funding is one thing, but I think, Scott, you really hit on it with the buy-in. It's getting, I think when you talk to people about this project, having, saying that the farmers market, the council office, and the neighborhood council have contributed, I think goes a long way. And it goes a long way in, I think, what Barry was saying. And Barry, I forgot to answer your question about Harvard Westlake. Yes, we are, I've known them. I know everybody there just from my history. And yes, so, they're on our list as well. And I think it goes a long way, Scott, and, in just continuing to seek funding, because here's the thing, as I see all the time, many projects will lead into other projects. Maybe there's something that when we're out there, we discover, like, the drinking fountain needs to be fixed. I'm just making something up, but there's always something that comes out of it. And I think having community support and buy-in is huge and cannot be understated. Even if it's $15,000 of $500,000, that the monetary doesn't, to me, matter so much. It's really pulling in the community, and someone in Studio City will donate because they know that the community is also donating and backing up. So it really does help build that sense.
I mean, I think we're at a point where we can just push this forward, because it's got to go in front of the board anyway, Scott. So I don't think we need to have the discourse here.
I have some questions though. I want to clarify some things. So if I had it correct and read, I was just looking at your NPG. You had received a grant of was it about 570,000? Was that it for this project?
Yeah, for this trail, separate scope of work, but yeah.
Okay, and so this is adding to an already large grant.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the community's leveraging $500,000 investment with this, would be with this funding. So it's huge.
Okay. We just, and this year particularly, I mean, I'm all in support of beautifying and everything, but what is the situation with the homeless along this area, and how you're working with Rahman's office? How is it being proposed to keep things clean and clear, or is it just getting fancied up for people living in the outdoors, unfortunately?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. That's a tough one to answer, Kim, because we're, our mission is twofold. Workforce development. We look to inspire, educate, train, and hire young people from the communities we serve and provide them with an opportunity. And our second is to, to beautify, to add green space to our city. And so while the homeless issue does persist, we get asked about it all the time. It's something that we really can't control. Possibly the MRCA. So the MRCA, which is a joint powers authority with the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, they have a grant. Now, the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy / MRCA is the park agency that is on the documents to maintain this trail. And that includes graffiti abatement, closing the gate, if there's homeless people, help, working with whether it's the police or the housing of, some other group working on that. That's not anything that falls in our scope, and it's unfortunate, but we really can't. What we can do is be there, be present, right? It's like if you have a light, you're going to have more safety. So like more people does foster that. So if we have more people, our crew is going to be down there. Hopefully, hosting more volunteer events will deter that. But it's hard. We can't really do anything directly to solve that. And I hate to say, but that's just, we gotta stay within our scope. And unfortunately, homeless services is not part of it.
And is this 5,000 according to the NPG? It's for the At Promise Youth Crew labor. It's for actually the labor rather than plants. Is that correct?
That's correct. When I did this budget originally, it was Studio City wide for the 15,000, then it got broken up. It's tough to say. It probably wouldn't all be labor, Kim. There would probably be purchase of plants in there as well. But the majority of this work, because the work is in removing invasive plants along the channel wall side, collecting the seed, giving it to tree people, and cleaning up the bioswale side, there's really not a planting component, and the state grant is going to take care of that planting component. But when I met with Steve and Beth from Studio City Residents Association, the discussion was the goal was to clean up the trail. And that involves labor in trimming that stuff back, collecting seed, making sure it gets off site. And our crew is comprised of At Promise youth from underserved communities throughout Los Angeles. So that's really what that was speaking to.
And so the crew is not hired from, they aren't kids in Studio City.
No.
Okay. And the completion date is expected to be the end of the year, 2023, this year?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. The whole project will take much longer, but the completion of this work, if not sooner, that was a generous estimation. So.
I think Kim, a lot of these questions should be asked in front of the board. I think we should just make the motion, just, because it seems like a reasonable, item to at least come in front of the board. He's made a substantial presentation. I don't think we need to have any more questions about this.
Well, I did, and I know you've had this thought before that it shouldn't get vetted here, but it should get vetted here to whether we need enough information to know whether we'd like to take it forward to the board. So
yeah, I think there's definitely a discrepancy in saying that. I think as a budget committee, we want to, I don't think it's a double vetting process. I don't think most budget committees, most neighborhood councils have proven that it is. I think it's our job to make sure it falls within our jurisdiction of what our board actually can participate in and could, possibly deal with the fiscal amount of, but I don't think our purpose is to, to have a double net on these questions.
Well, since our monies are very tight as well, Adam, it is worth talking about. And I asked about the completion date because we have run into issues before where we've approved something in one fiscal year, and because it can't get paid until completion, or now things work differently, I think, with the neighborhood purpose grants. But I had a bunch of emails with the clerk's office about not being able to get funds ahead of the completion of a project for another person, and it was a big fight. I couldn't believe. I said, how are they supposed to, if we can't get them the funds ahead, how are they supposed to do the work? So And I'm not exactly certain if that's gonna go this way with this.
Well, I
budget.
think that's,
So
I mean, that's a completely
money-
separate and distinct issue. I think that,
if you just let me finish, the money may actually end up coming from the next fiscal year's budget, possibly. I'm not certain on that, but I wanted to just so that I have all the answers as well when we go to the board meeting.
yeah, I just think we're
And
running such a
I can find out
surplus.
between now and then, some of these answers with the city clerk. So I'm just clarifying some stuff, Adam. I know you're anxious to. be
No,
done
no,
with
not
the
at all.
meeting.
It's actually not about that. That it has nothing to do with. I think there's just, we have to demonstratively understand, like, as a budget committee, in the past, and what our purpose is, and, you know, because I think also this goes hand in hand with how I think our neighborhood council meetings have spiraled, where we're not, everybody wants to talk, and I guess that's important. But I think there's a time and place for discourse. I think we're sometimes getting off the very sharp constraints of where our talking time should and can be. I just think if we want to run ourselves like a very succinct governance quasi agency, I think we just have to participate in the way that it's directed in the past. And I think if you look at continually shown a surplus, especially since COVID, because not a lot of these, you know, neighborhood initiatives haven't been coming to the table as often, especially from schools. So I don't think it's going to be that tight. But with that being said, I think it's I think we've definitely seen a slide in our neighborhood council meetings where it's just like everybody's allowed to shoot, and we're not even talking about issues that are relevant to the motion in hand. And I think we're just above that. If we can just, you know, but I mean, you're doing an excellent job tonight. I appreciate you. I have no reason to get off this call at all. I just, you know, I see us having this back and forth with him, which is not necessarily indicative of how it should and will be in governance.
No, I appreciate it. And I do recall a meeting with Lana that you felt that way. And I had confirmed with some others, you know, what our role is. It brought up the question, what is the budget committee's real role? You know, is it to vet, or is it to just say, okay, we have the funds, push it forward? But we are coming together to vote whether to recommend that the board supports it or not. So we need enough information, if that helps you. And we can talk about and try to get to really a firm understanding in the future about it. Appreciate having you on this committee, Adam, but I know that is, people have different ideas of how much vetting should be done or not. So
yeah. I think I just follow the trajectory of not just other neighborhood councils or city councils. I mean, but I just am a big fan of governance in general. So I look at everything up to state and also federal committees and how they practice and the best practices. And I think as much as possible, you know, you want to create, does this motion fit into the capabilities of council to vote on, or in our case of our board to vote on. So yeah,
So
I think we're all,
Well,
I don't think we have like enough direction from the city and how we do these meetings, but I think there's a way to do them more efficiently.
So moving right along, it sounded to me like Kim was about to wrap up her questions, and I think she would have been done and we would have been ready for a motion. So please take it away, Kim. I think.
thank you. So shall we go ahead and make, I'm not sure exactly how to do this, Scott. I'd appreciate your help on, do we vote whether do we just say we'd like to write a motion? Do we need a vote on whether we would support this to push forward?
Well, I'd like to write a motion. That's usually how it starts. And the motion I'd like to write is that we approve this grant up to $5,000 and leave it at that. That way the board can be informed themselves and they can determine the final dollar amount. I don't know that we have the money. There's no reason to hold past money to the next neighborhood council. We don't know what they're going to do. Our interest is taking care of spending the money we have now. So my motion is that we approve this grant up to $5,000 and then we can send it to the board.
Well, in one scenario, we only have 2,900, which is a concern.
Well, that's a scenario. The budget is not hard and fast.
I know.
The budget can move any direction. On one scenario, you have $10,000 that, you know, left over. So I don't think that we need to take that in consideration because we can change the budget. It's up to the board to do that. And I think if we recommend this project to the board, then they can make their decision about how they want to spend the money. But I don't know that necessarily that's our committee's goal here, is to determine how much money we would apply to this project. Like I said, I want to make an motion, and I made the motion. Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second, just so we don't have a long pregnant pause. But I just want to add that because of all the other items in play and how our final budget will fluctuate, and perhaps not for this committee, but to tell you what my plan would probably be at the board, I'd offer an amendment to what this committee passes and say contingent upon, and then put in something about the finalization of our election budget and the funds being available after that point. So
That's a great strategy.
So I think since I second what Barry said, and so you know where we're going to be heading with this, the next step is then to go to public comment, and then we come back and vote.
And can Barry, was it correct that Barry Weiss cannot vote since he was not on the agenda, wasn't officially? No?
He really shouldn't vote because he wasn't officially on the
Okay,
on the agenda, but
okay. So we need to open up for public comment.
yeah, on the motion. Hopefully Barry wrote it down.
No, but I will right now so I can repeat it. The board, the budget committee of the Studio City Neighborhood Council proposes accepting this grant up to $5,000. Simple as that.
I think the usual wording is that the budget committee proposes, what is it, Scott? So
Board of the Studio City Neighborhood
Council.
The NPG, whatever it says on the agenda,
Okay.
up to, oh, the dog, up to 5,000. Sorry, I'm getting distracted.
Yeah, I think the words are that the budget committee recommends that the SCNC support or approve the NPG for up to $5,000 for northeast trees. Yes.
Okay, so I'll write that down and forward it to you, Scott.
Look at that.
And that way we have it in writing.
Scott's gone onto Puppet too.
Wow.
Thank you, Barry. So we'll open this up for public comment. Go ahead, Goat Puppet.
Yes, and pursuant to the local rules, Scott gets 2 votes, 1 for him and the white animal. And as you know, do these people really need this money? Hell no, they got the Washington money. That's right. They can raise millions of dollars according to the testimony here. 700,000. Isn't there something better we can do with this money? Like, for example, put it on a gift card, a Chevy gift card, for people that need maintenance on their vehicles. Imagine the SCNC could hand out these maintenance gift cards so that people could get an oil change or replace a battery that went dead. We could be doing so much more, Scott, with this money than putting it into this bottomless pit, this nonprofit bottomless pit. I think we need to do better, people, but at least we got Adam to wake up. Yes, he finally spoke.
And that's time.
He couldn't handle it anymore, Scott.
Thank you, Goat. Calling user 1, go ahead and unmute.
Look at the side. Look at the side.
Father Goat, can I speak, please? This is your son. Very simple. I would like to know what the policy, practice, procedure is to be a presenter on this regarding disclosure of documents. And that's pretty much it. I'm not going to address the merit of what's being proposed. I just want you to know where the money is going or not going, and it's up to you, the board, know that or figure that. So I'd like to be a presenter, not in opposition, but as a neutral individual, almost like an amicus curiae. Remember that, Richard Nuremberg? The word amicus curiae. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Chip Meehan.
Yep. At a time when I agree with you, we have to watch our dollars. The matching part of this, particularly getting money out of CD4 for some local investment that does not to do with the unsheltered, is attractive to me. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other hands, I guess we will go forward to a vote on whether we support. Go ahead. I don't actually know who we're supposed to start with first. It doesn't matter, Scott.
Any
No.
order?
Okay. Richard Niederberg.
Yes.
Okay. Scott Mandel.
Aye.
Adam Summer.
Yes.
And Barry Weiss, we're going to refrain. I actually do feel that there is enough money for this project, and I'm not in support, but that's not going to matter here. So motion passes. We will move forward as long as that's good with Scott, correct? There's nothing else I need to do. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe and Steve, and we really appreciate your time and for hanging in also for that hour or so you had to wait to come on. So thank you, and do appreciate
you.
what you're doing too. Don't get me wrong. I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
All good. Thanks so much, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to present and look forward to continued conversation.
Thank you.
Bring your pictures on Wednesday.
We will move forward then to agenda item 7. The discussion and possible motion, the hiring of administrative service to prepare minutes for the upcoming in-person board meetings. Did you want to share anything on this, Scott, or you were the one who sort of spearheaded this thought on our in-person meetings? And so if you'd like to discuss, we already discussed a bit, but if you'd like to
Sure.
add anything.
Well, obviously, I don't want to waste any money either, but I also want to be able to take minutes, and we're treading. I realize this board has been doing things a certain way for all those years when meetings were in person and there was no such thing as Zoom. But we know that this is the board we have, and this is what's happening in just a few weeks. Actually, next month we're in person. I haven't done any electronic testing to see if we can capture the audio sufficiently to generate a transcript. I don't want to do that. It's a lot of work. We don't have our audio visual engineer who used to support the neighborhood council. He is no longer volunteering to do that for reasons that many of you already know. So we are on our own for that. And I think the prudent thing to do is prepare for a minutes taker. And I think we can probably just go right into a motion. In fact, I can share the screen, and it's not even a debate about the price. That's the price. If you can see that, the minute taker, it's the rate that the company actually charges, and then there's their bill rate, which is
Well,
what
this is the amount. It's where the double X's are if people aren't
Yes.
finding it, but this is the rate at which the city had contracted with the approved vendors. Although my understanding is that they are currently in talks, in negotiations for rate change for the upcoming year, whatever their year is of the contract. So they are in talks. So we may actually there may be a higher rate associated with that.
So if you don't mind, I would just propose that We haven't had very many budget motions, but the motions normally just read, the board of the city neighborhood council supports the hiring of an administrative staff service to prepare board minutes at the contract rate per the city of Los Angeles. And then we would just give them the rate. And I guess that's per hour. We don't know how long the board meetings run, and we would just leave it at that. We wouldn't even need to say up to an amount. We would just have that dollar amount, and it's and that's that.
The up to though is it's somewhere along the way that I picked up on that's
No, I understand.
helpful and necessary, and it gives us a top dollar and constraint to that we adhere to, or we have to vote on again and revise the budget. So it's a good. Do you want me to write that down? Are you making the motion, Scott? And then we would go to public comment for that. I will second your.
If that was coherent enough for everybody before it's seconded, if you wanted to just say it again slightly differently, and then we don't have to amend it.
Okay, and you are recording. Too bad we can't just go back and read it. So, okay, the SCNC Budget Committee. Do you remember what you said?
What was I haven't done any budget committee motions that.
Usually they're all set up.
I mean, normally in committee, it is written as if the board is speaking. So it's always the board of the neighborhood city, the city neighborhood council. Is it different when it comes from the budget committee, where the budget committee is simply recommending to the board?
Yes, yeah, and that is
the budget committee of the city neighborhood council, recommends the hiring of whatever says on the agenda, administrative service to read budget minutes, board minutes at the contract rate for our upcoming in-person board meetings. Do I have a second?
Yes, I will second that.
Kim, would you like to then just go to public comment and then come back to vote? We'll have the transcript and then we'll write it up.
I do have it mostly here. Go ahead, Goat Puppet. If you'd like to comment, Goat Puppet. Maybe Goat stepped away. We can come back to you. Calling user 1. Would you like to comment on agenda item number 7?
Yes, 2 of your board members contacted me about this, and I sent them copies of some documents. Who is Terrence Gomes? He's actually a board member at South Robinson. He runs and puts Beltran on the hot table when she screws up. And also, I didn't send it to Richard Nierberg, but I filed a lawsuit against the Department of Empowerment and Van Nuys Neighborhood Council regarding their problems with their agenda. And part of the settlement was they had to hire Terrence Gomes to make sure everything's taken care of. And another thing about Terrence is he has an MBA, a legitimate one. He's always followed through. He is mandated to do the agenda and the minutes over in Van Nuys per the settlement. A couple of the board members over there wanted to fire him because they wanted to save money, and I then sent a copy of an unfiled contempt charge and saying I'll bring everybody to court and prosecute them for under contempt. And a miracle happened. City attorney helped them not to do that. He's always followed through. He's always not been completely correct. But if any of the board members here want me to send a copy of the lawsuit or any of the supporting documents why he was ordered to be there, and he does get paid, and he doesn't monkey around with the billing either. That's a nice thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Goat Puppet, did you have something to add?
Yes, you could hire Lydia Grant. She used to be a bunk commissioner, and she takes notes at the Northridge East Neighborhood Council, Glenn Bailey's little council. so you might be able to get her. Not only does she take notes, she also points out Brown Act violations for no charge as well. Imagine having another eyes and ears here in this corrupt neighborhood council system. Imagine Scott being able to monitor and watch more of his wayward board members. As we learned for today that we never knew before, there's a good Scott and a crazy Scott. And the crazy one has not shown up yet, disappointing Goat Puppet's entire evening of snacks. I just finished my chips. So again, we agree we should have note takers, but imagine if crazy Brandon would have apologized to that other individual, we would have the video capabilities and the dragon capabilities. What's that? Oh, that's where it captures the audio. And
Maybe
the audio
next time?
converts to print, saving Scott thousands of dollars in budget.
Thank
Only,
you.
only if the apology would take place.
Thank you, Goat. Okay, public comment is closed. Committee members, any comments, questions? Okay, shall I read the motion again and then we'll take a vote? As best I
It's up
have
to
it.
you.
Did you
I
have a
think-
question, Richard, or comment?
I'm wondering, why are we prohibited from taking it out to bid? And just have the, put the idea out there and then we choose somebody.
There were the city has they have approved vendors and contracted rates.
I'm very well aware of that. But it does not cover committee members of neighborhood council. You don't have to pay them.
I'm not understanding your question or comment there.
If they are a member of a committee or neighborhood council stuff, you don't have to pay them.
So
You
you'd like
find
to
somebody
see
wants to
if
do
a committee or board member wants to take the notes?
Yes.
It's certainly something that we can ask or offer, but I doubt we're gonna have someone who'd like to do such. We can certainly ask.
Well, I was very satisfied with Rita doing it before. I think it was very clear, as far as I'm concerned. Somebody of that nature, they may wish to do it. I don't know if they do. No, but they might wish to do it.
This doesn't prevent someone from doing it. It doesn't prevent our current secretary from doing it, and it doesn't prevent Rita from coming back and doing it. This prepares us for what is likely the March meeting where our secretary will not be able to do it and we will not have anybody. You don't have to pay for it, but it looks like we don't have any volunteers unless you know someone who is willing to do it for free. Then that would be totally fine.
And we may come to a different solution, but we should definitely get this.
Maybe somebody will get elected, in June, and then who wants the job so much they'll do willing to do the notice.
I think it's important to get this in front of the board in February, since we're going to in-person meetings March. So at least we will have that in hand, that if the board approves, that we can move forward on such a thing. We will have little time between our board meeting and the first meeting to get that set up, so.
Okay, that's fine. I just said that somebody may get elected and are elected who wants to do it. I don't know they will, but who knows?
That'll be though in June, so that's months away. We'll have a number of in-person meetings until then. If I'm understanding you correctly, you talked about June. That would be a ways out.
Okay, well, right now we don't have anybody at all. So listen, if we can't, anybody, we'll have to hire them, but we might get somebody.
Okay. Appreciate the comment. Okay, absent any other comments from the committee, I'll go ahead and read the motion again. So what I have here, and please correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, the Budget Committee recommends that the SCNC Board support hiring of an administrative service person to prepare minutes for the upcoming in-person board meetings. What did I say? At the city contracted rate for up to 1,000 for 4 meetings. Richard? How do you vote?
Yeah, I really don't like the idea of doing it this way, but that's what it has to be. It has to be. I mean, Scott eventually has here the thing, if you can't get his words out there or be on the record.
Thank you. Adam Summer?
Yes.
Okay. And Scott Mandel?
Yes.
I was feeling like I was missing somebody or leaving someone out. That would be Barry, who has to refrain. So, and I will be a yes also. Next time though, definitely Barry. Thank you again for joining us.
Oh, no problem.
It was a little late in the game to get your name on there. Okay, so moving on to number 8. Discussion and possible motion regarding the hiring of a vendor to record the upcoming in-person board and committee meetings. We also touched upon this one. I think it's something we just have to prepare for and bring to in front of the board. I don't even think Scott has any ideas yet. It really is this early? I guess it's not early in the game. We got to figure this out between now and then. So I think it probably is important to bring this forth. And looks like we need to go to public comment. Do you want to add something on this, Scott, to explain this a little more?
Sure, I can add a little color to it. Before we moved to Zoom, we had a stakeholder volunteer who would bring audio and video equipment to the board meetings and record them and then post them. When I mean post-production, create a continuous meeting and then post it on our YouTube channel. So you can go back for years and see video recordings of our meeting. Then came Zoom, and obviously we're recording this one now, fairly simple. We're going back to in-person in next month, and we do not have that community volunteer, that stakeholder to do it. I'm not going to do it. I don't know if anyone here is going to do it. I can tell you that probably the rest of our board doesn't have the equipment and perhaps the technical expertise just to record a meeting, let alone a hybrid. I don't know what the cost is per meeting. I'm going to estimate that it's $500 for a board meeting because of the multi-microphones, multi-cameras. The committee meetings, we could probably record ourselves with a phone just to have a record of it. But we need a record of our board meetings where we debate and we approve or don't approve our motions. And we need a record of our board members' conduct and the conduct of stakeholders. It's very important to have that, not just the minutes, but the video. These are Brown Act meetings. Anyone from the public can walk in with a camera without anyone's permission, as long as they do not interrupt the meeting, plop a camera down and record anyone they want during the meeting. But we wouldn't have access to that for our purpose. So I would like to propose that the Budget Committee recommends the hiring of a done or city-approved vendor to record our in-person board meetings. And if you want to just say at a cost of up to $500 per meeting, I mean, if it's more than that, it's going to be pretty difficult to do it. If they don't have approved vendors, we'll find somebody to do it. But I really think we should record our meetings and present something in front of the board so they can go thumbs up or thumbs down. And if that my suggestion of a motion wasn't coherent enough, please just take what I just said and rephrase it.
No, it sounds good. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to public comment then. Goat Puppet, go ahead.
Yes, it sounds like Scott wants something there in case lawsuits get filed or criminal charges. Yes, it sounds like Scott's getting ready for something that Goat Puppet is not quite sure of yet. And we'll have to do some digging. And that's what I like to do. Dig, dig, dig in the dirt with my hooves. That's right. Remember that nice volunteer? He used to sit over there to the left. Yes, when we used to have board members like Eric Previn that were watching everybody to make sure they stay out of prison. And then things changed with Randall Freed, doing business as Fried Chicken, doing business as Randall Fraud. And then everything went to hell. But we have a solution here where we can get this for free. Oh no. Well, can I speak? Go ahead. Yes, we can simply have the FBI file for a warrant, and then they can wiretap the warrant, the whole building, and then we can get video for free. Like Weezar's
Thank
office.
you. That's time.
Yes, what do you think of that? I think it's great. Good, I make a motion.
Thank you, Goat. Calling user 1.
Thank you, FBI.
Just for clarification, Kim, who, if I need to forward information regarding this, do I send it to you?
You can send it to and Scott, is it budget committee? What is their budget? Do you happen to know that offhand?
But would you be a good person to send the information to?
You certainly can.
Okay, yeah. I just emailed a bunch of cinematographers out in the adult film business, and several of them are interested in volunteering for the project. They have a lot of good films in the adult film industry that they've done for years, very detailed, and they'll be glad to show you some of their work. And they could have some of the actors or entertainers tell you how good their photography is and so forth. They can't do it in person, but they can show stuff they have done and so forth. So I will give out your email address to the adult film cinematographers that just emailed me back that regarding this motion, and they could come in and really help you a lot.
That's
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, I gotta plug this in real quick. My screen just went dark here. Okay. Committee, anybody? Richard, you have a comment? We'll go to the committee now, Richard.
Well, remember that the studio has a very nice AV room right next to where we used to meet, which was, next to where they used to shot some sort of sitcom, but it was, right next to it particularly. I don't know if they would loan stuff again, but they seem to be willing to do it. And again, this will be a free thing for the equipment itself. Now, and they have the stuff. I'm not talking about the professional cameras. I'm talking about the stuff they keep in the audiovisual section where we used to meet.
Okay, thank you. I wonder, we know somebody who's on this call right now who is in that realm of stuff, who would probably, if someone was to ask around and see if anybody was willing to donate their time to do such, it may be a good idea there.
We all remember we also have a that mixed board that we use at Luminaria, but it has that 8 microphone situation, and so that's maybe one way of picking up the stuff. Recording it is something different, but
yeah, we'd need a volunteer and to have the use of that equipment. So I don't know. I just think we need to definitely prepare, you know, for this possibility as we sort of figure it out. But yeah, all great ideas. If anybody knows anybody who'd like to join in and help and with the minutes or with video, it'd be great. Maybe that can go into the next, at least on your announcements, Scott, with the next agenda, perhaps.
I don't even know what I'm going to be putting on the agenda as far as done. So, and COVID and all the other details to try to then get someone to come there and do a little rehearsal to see if they can show up that night and do it for free. And when someone doesn't show up who's doing it for free, you can't get your money back.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all, I mean, these are all great ideas, but probably not for this board, for this term. And it might be something for the next board to look to the community for volunteers. I think we need to just do what we can to make it till the end of June intact, so to speak.
Yep.
And just get it in front of the board. And if anyone, like I said, if anyone wants to come to the rescue as a minute taker and a videographer. And then this could all be moot if for some reason we get something from Sacramento before we start meeting in March and they change the Brown Act. And then we could be right back here as we are tonight.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee? No, I don't see that. So it's getting late, been a long day. Scott, you offered the motion. Did anybody second it? Did I second it? So dopey I'm getting. I think I did. Yes, no, maybe. I'm gonna second it.
Well, you just did now.
You did.
All right. So shall I read this and we'll take a vote?
If anyone needs it read again. Does anyone need to hear it read again, or is everyone ready just to vote?
I think just to be official here.
Okay, go ahead.
So motion, the Budget Committee recommends that the SCNC board approve the hiring of a vendor, and then using Scott's words here, the hiring of a vendor to record the upcoming in-person board and committee meetings, up to $2,000 and $500 per meeting for 4 meetings. Does that work?
It would just be the board meetings.
Right, for four meetings. You want me to make it clear that it's the board, the hiring of a vendor for board meetings? Didn't you put that? Hiring of a vendor to record the upcoming in-person board. Oh, you wrote board and committee meetings.
I did.
Okay, on the agenda you did. So yes, I thank you for clarifying. I will just say yes, the board for the board meetings. Okay. Richard.
No.
Okay. Adam.
Definitely yes.
Okay. And Scott.
Yes.
Okay, and I am a yes. So that passes. All right, we're finally getting there. Good of the order, brief comments by committee members on non-agenda items and possible topics for future meetings. Anybody? No, okay, great. Everybody's tired. With that, I don't have any closing comments except other than just, again, thank you, Barry, for joining. We really have been needing another set of hands, and so glad you're on board, and look forward to future meetings or not, since we'll be in person. I'd like to stay on Zoom. So anyways, thank you all so much for all you've done, and for the stakeholders tuning in tonight. And I will say good night.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
Bye. Good
Thank you,
night.
Scott.